Welcome again to the Intentionalist podcast. This is episode 5, where we are going to discuss different layers of betrayal and how an intentional woman can navigate those layers and go beyond betrayal and live a meaningful life with less hate, less luggage, move life lighter, coming back into yourself and live a harmonious life. Betrayal is something that I personally had dealt with several times, being someone who has divorced and lived a single life, tried to date again, being betrayed, entered into the second marriage, betrayal in friendship, betrayal at work, betrayal in parenthood, betrayal among siblings. Betrayal is something that we live with. So how do we navigate life with betrayal? What are the traumas that develop with betrayal? What are the resentment that comes with betrayal? And how does a woman notice that I'm now acting out of betrayal traumas? And how should I navigate life easily? I'm sure this is a conversation that you don't want to miss or interrupt. Grab your cup of tea or your water so that we can converse. You know how we do it here? This is unfiltered content, personal experiences, and how we navigated that space. Today's guest is a beyond betrayal or a post-trauma expert coach. Her name is called Ingrid.
Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to introduce yourself to our guest?
Sure. So my name is Ingrid Kruiter. I work as a life coach, as post-betrayal transformation coach, trauma recovery coach. I do breath work, systemic work, I have a lot of different hats.
Yes.
But I'm here today to talk specifically about post-betrayal transformation. Transformation and healing from betrayal is very possible. And thank you so much for inviting me.
You're most welcome. This is a topic that is so dear to our heart. We are going to navigate betrayal through our personal experiences and now the professional layer out of it, different ways to cope with it, different way to pinpoint that you're acting out of trauma response. And I would like to ask you, what is your personal experience with betrayal?
Thank you for that question, Alice. I think for sure none of the post-betrayal transformation coaches that I know is here because they're like, yeah, that's such a fun topic. Let me study that. No, most of us, we all came here because of our own experience. Yeah. So I was already a coach. I've been coaching for quite a number of years. I support women getting clarity on the life they want to live and overcoming what is holding them back to live the life that they want to live, like the limiting stories, the limiting beliefs. And I've been practicing that for quite a number of years. And then last year, I experienced quite a massive betrayal in my life. Yeah. The partner I was with at the time, who I also lived with, who we were building a future with, or so I thought, found out that, his intentions were never what I thought they were. They were very different from mine. And he was basically living multiple other lives beyond the one we were sharing together. Yeah. And I started sharing about this on social media at one point, just sharing my story. Yes. And I got so many responses from people saying, wow, Ingrid, thank you for sharing because I'm actually going through the same. Yes. And I feel so alone, or I felt like I thought I was crazy. I thought I was the only one.
The stupid one.
The stupid one. I thought like, how could this have happened to me? So thank you so much for, speaking up for us. Yeah. And I thought, wait a minute, I already have the tools. I'm already a coach. I already support people. I already support people with overcoming, what is holding them back. Now I have a personal experience that can support people maybe even more. Yeah. But I still felt like I needed more. Yes. I needed more knowledge. I needed more skills. So I went ahead and did 2 certification programs,
Yes.
one in trauma recovery coaching,
Yes.
and another one in post-betrayal transformation.
Yes.
I also didn't know that existed.
Yes, until it happened
but it
to
exists.
you. Yeah.
I'm actually the only post-betrayal transformation coach in Kenya, and there's only a few worldwide to really learn about betrayal, what betrayal does to us, but more importantly, how we can heal from betrayal, because there are really stages towards healing. And of course, doing the certification program, I also went through all the stages. And so
of healing.
I really also speak from personal experience and professional experience.
I really do feel like people who coaches from personal progress have tangible results and a clear roadmap because it is a road that you have tested and it worked for you, and it will obviously work for different other people. Would you like to define for me common signs and symptoms of someone who is already displaying betrayal trauma?
Thank you for that question as well. So the symptoms of betrayal can be quite varied and quite multiple as well. So, of course, not every betrayal will hit you as hard as some other betrayals.
Yes.
Right? I've also experienced multiple other betrayals, but none hit me as hard as the one that happened last year.
Yeah.
Because what
you high hopes.
what you had invested, what was at stake, the future that you had envisioned. So of course different betrayals hit differently, and they hit differently for different people. For you, a betrayal in your marriage might hit very hard. For somebody else, it's a betrayal in business.
Yes,
betrayals
true.
happen in business.
Yeah, true.
Or parental betrayal from when you were much younger. Now, the symptoms of betrayal can even still be very, very strong, even decades after a betrayal has happened. There are stories, and I've done my certification with the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute. They have done extensive research in people that have experienced betrayal. And sometimes decades later, people are still suffering from things like very intense emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, lack of trust in other people, feelings of lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, very hard to trust others, maybe holding themselves back because, this might happen again. The symptoms might be even more on a mental level, where there's lack of concentration, lack of focus. There's a lot of rumination that's taking up a lot of space. And it could be also physical, to a place where maybe you have issues, with digestion or weight gain or weight loss, sleep issues, insomnia, and the stress that comes with the betrayal experience. I think we learn more and more about what stress does to our bodies. So even in the longer term, if we don't address this, a betrayal experience or a different traumatic experience can really sit in our bodies and can do a lot of harm, even up to other ailments. These kind of ailments that the doctors are like, we can't really find what it is. But you know
it's
that
underlying issues that is
respiratory, diabetes, inflammatory other issues, gut issues, maybe even hair loss. These kind of things can come from experiencing prolonged stress if it's not dealt with. So they can be quite severe. They're not the same for everybody. But it could well be that if you've been suffering from these things that you can't quite figure out, that there is an underlying issue at stake here.
Yeah, true.
Not necessarily, I'm not a medical doctor, so please, if you have any medical issues, go visit your medical doctor, go visit a clinic. But a doctor doesn't ask you normally about
those questions. Yeah, true. That's why we need to understand our symptoms on a different layer, not necessarily clinical, but also being that holistic approach of knowing that I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling attacked in a way, I'm feeling like I'm losing my conscious, I'm feeling like I'm losing my trail of thoughts, I'm losing concentration. What could be the matter?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you for that.
Be multiple. And so I also want to add to that, maybe, Alice, if I can.
Yes, please.
That if you're experiencing any of these, if it's emotional, physical, mental, I just really want to emphasize that you're not crazy. You might think like, oh my gosh, am I the only one? I'm crazy. No, you're not crazy. You're actually having a very normal response to an abnormal situation.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
I love that. You are having a normal response to an abnormal situation.
Your body and your system is trying to do what it can to protect
to cope
you.
and protect and speak to you.
Exactly.
This is something that people experience a lot when it comes to betrayal. Seeing a situation and choosing to go in it, knowing very well that it is not the best. Yeah. And once it has backfired, that amount of guilt and self-hate that comes. Can we speak about the betrayal of betraying yourself? How do we deal with the self-betraying? Yeah. What is the best way that I can respond and forgive myself of betraying myself? Yeah.
Thank you for raising that question as well, because I think almost every single betrayal story that I've heard, including my own, and you might also affirm that with your own, yes, he's raising her hand, comes also very often with some level of self-betrayal.
Yeah.
Whereas you knew this relationship wasn't really going the way you need a relationship to go, or what is right for you. You knew this workplace wasn't really bringing out the best in you. You knew this friendship is not how you want to experience friendships, and yet you stuck around and you justified and you told yourself that it will change, or that they will change, or that you will learn better how to deal with this. There is often a level of self-betrayal. You're like, oh my gosh, I saw the signs and I ignored the signs. So there is very often a big level of self-betrayal, which can compound and make the whole experience even more complex, because on top of dealing with the pain and the hurt and the confusion, you're also slowly need to start acknowledging that, whoa, I might have played a role. When I say you've played a role, I don't mean you're to blame for the betrayal. Someone betraying you, someone choosing to go behind your back, and instead of being, honest and face you for whatever issue they might have had with that relationship, someone choosing to betray you is their choice.
Yes,
it has absolutely nothing to do with you, not with who you are and what you look like. It is up to them. However, you might have played a role in enabling to some extent,
that,
or to staying for longer than maybe what was good for you, for allowing it. And that's then something that people really also need to come to terms with. But I really also hear you did at that time what you knew was best for you with the information you had.
But yeah, true, I agree.
Now you might know better. Yes. Now you might see it so clearly. You might see it so clearly that, oh my gosh, instance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it was shouting at me that something was happening. But I could not see it at the time. I did not want to see it, because maybe it meant I had to take certain decisions, take consequences that I'm not ready for. And that's okay. So when you ask, like, how can you deal with also that maybe self-hate or forgiving yourself, is really to acknowledge that you did what you knew was best for you at the time. Now you might know better. You've probably learned a lesson. And next time something like this might happen, you'll act differently. And to really practice that kindness and compassion to yourself. I mean, we're honestly all here for the first time. This life didn't come with a manual of how to live it.
No.
So we're trying the best we can.
Yeah, true. Because I think the repetition in betrayal, it's what make you have that constant self-hate of John came. He did exactly the same thing that Alex did. Yeah. He did the same exact thing that George did. Yeah. And then starting to even doubt if you have a certain pattern that attracts certain things. I hear sometimes coaches saying that, why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable partner? This is a wrong gimmicks line. There's no such a thing in you that keep attracting emotionally unavailable people. You are just enabling that. Yeah. You have a good heart. You can attract good partners. It's something that needs to be recalibrated in your mindset and belief system. But you're not wired, you're not made or born that way to attract negativity.
No, and those people are there.
Yeah.
The people that will betray you, they exist.
Yes, they do.
So they're going to come into your life.
Yes.
The question is, how long did you allow it for?
Yes.
And you will learn. And actually, it's interesting you raised multiple betrayals, because multiple repeat betrayals, maybe from the same person or from different person, is often also a sign that there is an unhealed prior betrayal, which might even be from your childhood or something else.
Yes.
And also for you, this betrayal then becomes an opportunity. I know if you're listening and you very recently found out about a betrayal, for me to say there is opportunity in betrayal, I'm probably going to sound like I'm crazy. You might not be ready to hear this, but there actually is, because now there is an opportunity for you to look into all these patterns, to look into these dynamics, to come out more healed, more wholesome, stronger. Yeah,
true. Not necessarily going into the healing journey, acknowledging that I'm not responsible of being betrayed, because sometimes what makes us being so bitter with betrayal, it's because we feel like we are 100% responsible of the outcome of us being betrayed. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I just want to repeat what I said earlier, because I think, and I want to repeat it because I think it's really important for your listeners to hear. You are not responsible. You are not to blame for someone going behind your back and for someone cheating on you or betraying you. That was their choice.
Yeah, true.
But you can take responsibility for your life after betrayal and seeing where, again, what we just discussed, where maybe you allowed it.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the case. Very many of us, we saw the signs, we somehow did allow it, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
But also to take responsibility now for your life after.
Yeah.
How do I want to continue? That's in your hands only. You cannot expect anybody else to take responsibility for your life. And that's also where a lot of people get stuck. So there are various stages towards healing. There are actually 5 known stages towards healing, and very many people get stuck in the third stage, which is a stage where you kind of find, your new normal after betrayal. You're not so much in shock anymore.
You've numbed yourself.
A bit. You found a way to deal with it, but you're in a stage maybe where it's a comfortable state. It's not really comfortable. It's an uncomfortable comfortable. Because it's kind of nice to have somebody to blame for the things that are not going well in your life. Maybe your finances aren't going so well, maybe
true.
your health or your fitness.
Yeah.
But
then
it's
you
all
blame
because of you.
Because of a bad marriage. Because, I used to do that. My coping mechanism, number 1, was to numb. And say, whatever. Then put it under the rag. Not talk about it, and probably thinking that the feelings will go and life will move on and all that. And after that, now when the person comes and do repeatedly the same exact thing, or even with bigger intensity, you feel like, fuck, what is that? What happened?
I thought we had dealt with this.
So we feel like I
thought it was under the
rug. Or you feel like we are coming back to the drawing board, like from the beginning and again and again.
Because you didn't actually deal with it.
Yeah. And then now my dealing with such a kind of situation was, okay, I'm forgiving you, but I'm monitoring you. That is also not really healing, because you're trying to monitor steps and see it is coming. And then when you do like that, you're more into your alert mode.
100%.
And you are very absent. There is no intentionality in your healing. There's no intentionality into building back the bridge. You're more of a monitor.
It happens, especially when you stay with the person that betrayed you. If you want to try to rebuild with them. For those who are listening and who are trying to rebuild with a person that betrayed them, if it's at the workplace, in a relationship or a friendship, it is of paramount importance that this other person takes responsibility.
Yes,
they're
true.
the one that broke the wall of trust.
Yeah.
They need to be very intentional about
and
rebuilding.
This is something that people need to know. Apology is only apology when somebody takes accountability and change and takes steps toward change. Yeah. Apology is just a word when someone does repeatedly the same thing that they have been doing even after the apology. The betrayal of someone who is falling off the commitment that they have said, okay, I apologize, I'm going to do this and I'm going to work better. Yeah. And then when you're trying to give them that space to work on themselves, in the same space, they still mess again.
They have to be very intentional.
They have to have that intentionality in it. Yeah. When that is broken, then how do we go beyond that?
So even the research that the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute did, they found that there were certain groups that had a very hard time healing from betrayal.
Yes.
Like a lot of people managed, but the people that didn't kind of fell in 3 different groups. Yeah. And one of the groups is where the betrayal or the betrayer, actually there were no consequences. Life kind of just moved on as it did before. Nothing really changed. And then for the people that were stuck in those situations, it was very hard for them to heal because nothing changed. You're still there with your confusion, with your anger, with your sadness, with not knowing if you can trust this person or not, and nothing is changing.
And I think this is something that hit women differently, especially when you come from a relationship that has betrayed you. You jump into the next, hoping this one is going to be my hero, my savior, my healer. And the way we usually tell our partners that, my first relationship was a ghetto, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. You are somehow sharing, expecting support, expecting them to hold your hand and help you heal. And when they bring their own mess, then it accumulates. They carry more consequence that from your previous relationships added to what you're dealing with now. You end up being explosive. That John is dealing with not only his betrayal, but the people who have they lined up that happened to be in your life before him, because that's what trauma does. It compounds wounds. And then every time there is an eruption, you can't necessarily pinpoint that this feeling is exactly from John. It can be feeling from John, Patrick, Claude, all of them.
Yeah, or women. I know most of your listeners are women, so most of the potential partners or betrayers might be men, but of course it also happens the other way around.
Yes, true.
Yeah, and even maybe sometimes we have been on the other end as well, where we were the person betraying somebody.
Yeah.
And then maybe we even recognize this, like, whoa, I was the person betraying because I had my own unresolved issues.
Yes, true.
I had not worked through them. If we look at somebody else to be our savior, I think we do set ourselves up for failure.
For failure,
Healing, if it's from betrayal trauma, if it's from different traumas or different things that happened to us, that healing journey is going to be very important. It's also going to make that our next relationships, we show up more whole, complete and healthy.
Yeah, true.
And we also choose differently.
Yeah.
Or even if, because we don't always know somebody immediately, but when we get to know somebody, we're like, whoa, no. Yeah. This looks like something similar from the last time. I'm not dealing with this anymore. Last time I allowed it for a decade. This time I'm allowing it for 3 weeks.
3
but
months.
now
we are done.
So you're definitely learning. You're definitely growing, and you'd want to heal, because also for your next relationship, if that is a person who has worked on themselves, you don't want to bring in all your own issues. That doesn't mean you have to be completely healed before you can enter a new relationship. We also heal in connection.
Yeah,
Because
true.
alone on the mountain, I can be the most healed version of myself.
I agree with you on that, because
In connection is when I realize, I have some triggers.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I was still a single parent after my first divorce, I was still juggling with life. I was still studying. I was still trying to find a way to live and all that. In between, I was a very bitter woman. Bitter in a sense that I'm so angry. I'm so angry. And when I was entering my second relationship, it has exposed all the suppressed traumas that I had from childhood that I've not dealt with. I had trust issues. I had insecurity issues. Someone is telling you, I will pick you at 5. By 4:30, where are you? You understand?
Yeah.
If they happen to get late or not call or not, I knew it.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to bring all the luggage of the previous things that happened to you in the current. Because sometimes people also find it difficult to love you because you don't even know what blended who you are today because of those things, unresolved issues that you have. It's easy to blame the other person that they are like this. But I happen to learn that many times we also have unresolved issues that portray in how we react, portray on how we speak, how we bottle things. Because my first coping mechanism was to, I got this.
Yeah.
And then, I toughen up and I deal. Because growing up as an orphan, I have no one to go and cry, this is what is happening. So I never had that support system, that comfort. So I had to swallow all the time. So having to swallow that, it became my norm.
Yeah.
I swallow and move on. When a betrayal happened, instead of dealing with it, I swallow it and move on. So to the moment now, your gut is so full, you can't swallow anymore.
You can't swallow.
So when it is exploding, it explodes on people.
Yeah.
It explodes on how you react. Someone has lied to you once, not that it is valid, but now you are reacting from a point of a filled heart because people have lied to you several times. When you are reacting to this, it's not just them. It is them plus the rest.
Plus all that happened before.
So how can we unbaggage ourselves?
Yeah.
How can we unbaggage ourselves? What tips can you share before we want to deal with betrayal? How can we erase certain things in our memories so that we move lighter?
Yeah, so you mentioned, people find it hard to love you. And I think you're the first example to how the world should love you, the way you love yourself.
Yeah, true.
Right? So it really starts with loving yourself, pouring into yourself, knowing yourself, knowing what works for you, knowing what doesn't work for you, what you want from life, what you don't want from you, from Alice, not because your family thinks this or society thinks that, or you should, or according to the age that you're at, but really, what is it that you want, and celebrating yourself, really becoming your own biggest cheerleader. Now that can of course be very difficult when you grew up in a situation or in an environment where you didn't feel safe.
Yes.
Or where there was neglect, or where there was abuse, or
all of that,
and or to a less, bigger or lesser extent. But to really work through that, she said, to deal with it, and no, deal with it. So just deal with it. It's a process. It's a journey. Healing is a journey, and dealing with it doesn't mean shoveling it under the carpet. It's a hard process of also just feeling it, acknowledging it. Healing comes with a lot of grief. It comes with a lot of grief of, maybe my childhood wasn't the way I had hoped it would be, or what I needed it to be. Or maybe this relationship wasn't what, I had expected it to be, or this job didn't turn out, or life in general didn't turn out the way I hoped and I had expected and I wished for. So there's a lot of grief of what we were not able to be or to do,
or grieving or mourning the version that you fell in love with and it faded.
Yeah.
And then coming to the acceptance that the person that I fell in love has died. So accepting that and grieving it and mourning it, and now see how you can deal with the version that is served.
Yeah. There's a lot of grief, especially with betrayal. There's grieving of where you're now at your present, because maybe your present is completely not where you had wanted it to be.
Yes.
Maybe you've lost a certain future that you thought you would have.
Yes.
Maybe you've lost finances in this betrayal.
Yes.
Or a dream or something else. And then on top of all of that, betrayal also kind of messes with your past. Now you also have to grieve a past that is different than you thought it was.
Yes.
And everything that maybe you put up with in that past. So there is a lot of grief. It's not going to be a very pretty journey. And that's why it's so courageous if people do take up this journey of healing.
Yes.
Because on the other end of it, yes, it might be messy, it might be clumsy, it might be, all of that. Definitely not all roses and butterflies. But on the other side of it, there is so much possible for you when you know yourself, when you value yourself, what you will put up with.
Talking to that, there is another type of betrayal that people don't know it's a betrayal. I will call it that career betrayals, career choice betrayal. We were dating. You told me, you knew that I'm an introvert. We were dating, I knew that you had an ambition to grow. For God's sake, I didn't know for some point you will want to go and become a politician. And here I am. I'm dealing with a wife of a governor, a wife of what? You have so big dreams, and that is going to make me necessarily come out of my comfort zone and follow you in your dream. How do we deal with that ambition betrayal that we have preset to live together, we have discussed to live together? All of a sudden, you have just decided, I'm going to work in London, I'm going to work in the UK. That is going to make us stay apart.
Yeah, and you had not expected this.
You have not expected this. In your career growth plan, you knew in 10 years to come, you will have to move, you will have to upgrade, and that requires you to go to study abroad. But people don't discuss such a things. And I feel like sometimes women, we are caught in that space where we have to cope, or we have to pull ourselves to accommodate our partner's lifestyle change or career ambition pursuit. How do you deal with that kind of betrayal?
So I think you even though it doesn't always feel like that, but you always have an active choice in those decisions. Right? Even though the choices you have might not seem to be very appealing, but you have a choice to say, but I want to choose my own career. I cannot support you in yours. You have a choice to say, I will support you in yours for now, and maybe we make a deal that 5 years from now you support me in mine. But you are making an active choice. And I think when you also feel empowered and you feel like you are making this choice really based on what you know to be true for yourself, then you can live with the consequences. When you feel like the choice is made for you, or that you're choosing something that is not authentic to you, but just because you think that's what society expects or what your family expects or what your partner expects, then you're betraying yourself again.
Yeah, true.
It's not even so much that you were betrayed by somebody else, but it's your not living...
inability to speak for yourself.
And of course, in a relationship, in a marriage, you make compromises with each other. But maybe today I compromise to accommodate you, and tomorrow you compromise and you accommodate me. But these are mutual choices we make. And so if you had a say in it, you probably will also feel more empowered and more okay with the outcome. It's when you did something that actually you really didn't want to do, but you just went and kept the peace. That's when you're now betraying yourself.
This is another thing that I've seen. Sometimes betrayal is inevitable. But sometimes our coping mechanism, not sometimes, most of the time, our coping mechanism when we are betrayed have the tendency, are very destructive. What are the healthy ways that you can suggest people deal with betrayal? We don't have, because sometimes I myself included, I think the time I drank the most is when I felt betrayed.
Of course.
And not knowing how to deal with it, the wine became my friend. Or going out became my friend because I want to distract my brain, my inner chaos, my inner devils who are telling me, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. Yeah. Then the only way to cope with that was to sip some wine, escape. So what are the best way to cope with betrayal? As you heal, as in the process of healing, what are the positive
Very important question, because you will see that a lot of people deal by numbing, distracting, avoiding, escaping in wine and alcohol, going out. Sometimes even in exercise. Generally exercise can seem like a good thing, but you can also use it to escape or your work or your motherhood or your fatherhood or whatever you want, you're escaping in. Sex, shopping, gambling, social media. There can be a lot of ways in which we try to numb. And when a betrayal has only just happened, this is understandable. It is such a big thing that it's so hard on us. We look for those coping mechanisms. This is kind of even what in the healing from betrayal, it's kind of stage 2. Stage 3 is when that now becomes our comfort zone, and which is also the place where we start the blaming, we start becoming comfortable being a victim, we blame whatever is not functioning in our life on this bad other person. And that's another way of escaping, right? Of not taking responsibility for our life. Now, healthy coping mechanism, it depends also on, depends per person on what suits them most. I wouldn't want to tell someone who's really not an outdoors person to go outdoors. But you'll have your own more healthy ways. So for me, outdoors, nature was really, really, really soothing for me. Going for a walk, leaving my phone at home and just going for a walk. And yes, I have to face my emotions when I'm on that walk. And it might not be pretty, but I have to feel it to heal it. So to also just sit with it, to not always want to escape, even if that is uncomfortable. To hopefully you have a support group around you, a support network of friends or family, unless of course the friend or the family were the ones that betrayed you, that can be there for you. Also note that your friend and family are not necessarily professionals to deal with this. They might not always have the right advice for you. They might not always be able to hold space because they have things going on in their own life. It can be music, it can be reading, it can be taking up a new hobby. As I said, betrayal comes with an opportunity. Maybe all of a sudden you have time to learn something new. Anything that can help you cope, that is more healthy. I think very, very important in the aftermath of a betrayal is to really take good care of yourself and be very aware of how you speak to yourself.
I agree with you 100%.
That kindness, compassion to yourself, not blaming yourself. Yes, you might have had a role to play somewhere, not the betrayal, but in allowing it maybe, or maybe in a dysfunction of the relationship, but to take it as learnings, to know that you did the best you could at the time with, what you knew. Be watchful of what you eat. Be watchful of what you consume. Be watchful of your sleep. Who you hang out with, be really, really kind to yourself. If you need a bit more of this or a bit more of that, allow yourself. Sports, outdoors, exercise. It doesn't have to be, hitting the gym. I know it's where we met, so we're both, that might be an outlet for us. But if that's not your thing, maybe dancing in the house, maybe a play, maybe arts, whatever it is that feeds your soul. That you are more than just that betrayal that happened to you. There is so much more to you, and to slowly start rebuilding that, even when you don't feel like it. I think that is very important, but very mindful.
Even when you don't feel like it, because the most part here is when you're dealing with real betrayal, that it is so deep. The number one thing it does, it brings disinterest in every other thing that you used to love. All of a sudden, you don't like cooking anymore. You don't like going out. You don't like dressing up nicely. You don't like you don't find joy easily.
Yeah.
So I know healing is not linear, honestly. What are the coping ways that we can navigate our triggers? Because things that are going to trigger us are plenty.
Of course.
Are plenty.
So I think with what I just mentioned, that is really helpful in, just be kind to yourself, take good care of yourself. The more you take good care of yourself, you also, it comes with, believing that you're worth to be taken care of as well, that you're worth to be loved.
Yes.
Also enlist professional help, because your friends and family, you don't have to do everything on your own. And your friends and family might not always have the right support for you. A therapist or a coach, ideally someone who also knows about betrayal, right? Because otherwise you might there's a lot of advice and support out there, especially relationship, counseling maybe from your religious institution. If they're not very familiar with betrayal or even abusive relationships, because sometimes they go hand in hand.
Yeah, true.
Betrayal might go hand in hand with what was actually an emotionally abusive relationship.
Yes.
They might advise you to stay. They might have, but they're not really listening to what it is that you need.
Yes.
So enlist somebody that knows about betrayal, that can support you on this journey. You're worth it. You're worth to feel better, and you're worth this support as well. The triggers, I think when often we feel that our healing journey is not going fast enough, and guilty as charged myself, I think 2, 3 months, 4 months in,
I'm still struggling.
How am I
this.
still struggling? Why does this still trigger? Why am I still crying? Why?
Yeah.
No, it's to acknowledge that this hurt you
deeply. Yeah.
It cut deeply, and it will take some time. And to know that even if it's a year later, or even if it's 3 years later, and you feel like I'm still struggling, even if it's a decade later, that is okay. That it's okay.
Can you hear that? So you are feelings are allowed to resurface after amount of time that you have journaled about them, you have gone to therapy about them. Allow feelings to resurface, acknowledging them is part of healing.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're not healing. It doesn't mean that all the progress you thought you'd made became undone.
That's what I thought, because when something happens and it triggers me to go back to the initial stage, then I invalidated the fact that I have healed from that, because I'm still feeling the same feeling at the same intensity, at the same altitude, like what I felt 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So I would confusing the intensity of the pain that emotion is evoking in me to the stage of my healing. Is there any correlation between the two?
It might just mean that you're healing on a deeper layer. I've had some instances in the journey where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one.
Yes.
Like nothing has happened, nothing has healed.
Yeah.
Because it felt very intense
Fresh,
at that moment. And then I just noticed that a few days after that, actually I felt, whoa, actually this was just another layer that I needed. And don't forget, especially, I think most of your listeners are women. We also have a lot of hormonal stuff that we're dealing with, which is also influences by stress levels again.
Yeah, true.
So you might find that maybe your cycle or your, some heavy feelings that you already used to have pre-period are even heavier. You might find that those are the weeks that things feel just heavier than other weeks. So also be kind to yourself on that journey. Of course, if you feel like you're really stuck, it could also be that you're stuck.
Yeah,
it could
true.
be that you're stuck in your healing journey. And again, there is support out there for you. It doesn't have to feel like
that way all the time, forever.
There is, it will pass, but time alone won't heal.
That's what I wanted to be as a second. Do you believe that time is a healer when it comes to betrayal?
Time helps, but healing heals. Time doesn't heal.
Time doesn't heal.
Because people that had a betrayal happening to them maybe 3 decades ago might still suffer the consequences if they've not healed.
True, I
So
agree.
healing heals. If we use the time to be intentional about our healing,
Yes.
time
But
can
just
help.
thinking that time will heal.
As you said, I put it under the rug and then I just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work.
It comes with a lot of being very intentional. I love the name of your podcast.
Yes,
Being very intentional about claiming responsibility back of your life and using that time to rebuild your life, to rebuild you. Because let's not lie. Like betrayal can shatter
it does.
your world. It can shatter how you thought about yourself. It can shatter your worldview. It can shatter your self-confidence. It can shatter a lot. And for you to be intentional about rebuilding, and that's going to take some time. And it's not always going to be fun. And really, I wish this wasn't needed. And there might be moments that I'm still like, and without that betrayal, I wouldn't have had to do the hard work.
Yes.
However, the hard work is going to pay off and it's going to be worth it. And you are going to be doing things that you never knew you would do. I have so many examples of that. I never knew last year I would be here on a podcast with you speaking about betrayal.
Oh my goodness.
I know people that have done things that they're like, wow, had that betrayal not happened, I would have not moved jobs. I would have not started my business. I would have not met, this other person. I would have not moved country. There could be all kinds of things. Not to say that it came from day one. It might have been a struggle. Maybe we had to go through a deep, even financial crisis.
Yes.
But hey, look at me now.
Yeah.
So be patient. Know that it takes time. The harder, the more that relationship meant to me, or that job, or that business, or wherever the betrayal was, the more it meant to me, it's also going to take its time. But it will lead to that transformation if you are intentional. But some of us, we're also happy to just be stuck, to just be in the victim mode, to keep blaming the other person, to say,
that is also another toxic part.
Yeah.
I think this is another toxic part that we experience as victim of betrayal, to use that to always put down and pinpoint the person who betrayed us.
Yeah. And it's a normal stage of
healing. Yes, because you feel like you are the coward. You made me do this. You made me reach there, and you stay there without knowing necessarily that it is not the same person who will also take responsibility to come for your healing. Acknowledging that, yes, I'm betrayed, I'm hurting, but it will also take my responsibility for my healing. Yeah. Not necessarily this person is even compassionate enough. The fact that they betray you the first time, the second time, they are not even emotionally connected in the first place. So
they could have all their own stuff going on
as well
that made them, do this betrayal.
Yeah,
but it can be a very comfortable space.
True,
it can be very comfortable. It's not really comfortable, but it can be.
Yes,
where you are in the space of blaming, and if that's where you want to be, fine.
Yeah.
And it's a normal state of healing. I also want to emphasize it's a normal state of healing where you have this phase of blaming, of being the victim, of
exporting,
using it as an excuse for where your life is. You just don't want to get stuck there.
True.
So it's a normal phase on your healing journey. Just
move to the next.
Get stuck there.
Of finding solution.
Take responsibility. Rebuild that life. Rebuilding your life doesn't mean that you will never miss maybe this person. You are so allowed to miss somebody or to miss a situation
that you had with
is not good for you.
Yeah, true. I agree.
So for you to think, oh my gosh, I'm missing this person, I'm nowhere near my healing journey. No, you can still be on a healing journey and acknowledge that I miss a situation or I miss the life I had. Yeah. Or I thought
was life.
The future I thought I would have. I miss this. Even though I don't want this person
anymore. Yeah, true. Life. I agree. Now this comes to land to my second question, because we are always advised by this several times, maybe when we go beyond betrayal through a religion-based approach, where people say, forgive and forget. Yeah. You will live better, you will live lighter, there will be blessings and all that. Yeah. Is really forgiveness necessary in a way of dealing with betrayal?
I think this is a very personal question, or as what I mean with that is it really, for every person, the answer to that is different.
Yes.
Really depending on what do you personally mean by by forgiveness? What does forgiveness mean to you? It might be connected to your spiritual and religious beliefs around forgiveness. What I think when it comes to forgiveness, what is important, most important probably is forgiving yourself. If there was any of you beating yourself up in all of this, then forgiving yourself is very important. And I noticed so many people I spoke to, like, I can't believe I allowed this. I can't believe I exposed my children to this.
That's the common denominator.
This. Why did I not walk away earlier? Yeah. The signs were so clear. Why did I put up with this? Why did I not speak out? Like, there's a lot of that goes on. And to forgive yourself, again, we've talked about this earlier, to know that I did the best that I could with what I knew at the time, and what was important for me and true for me at the time. So forgiving yourself, I would say, is very important. Forgiving the other person, again, this is really, it depends on you as a person, how you see forgiveness. It is probably more important if this person is still in your life, a family member or your partner or at the workplace. It might be harder for you to coexist or even rebuild if there is no forgiveness. However, that doesn't mean that you first have to forgive and then rebuild. Let this person also first show that they're actually serious about rebuilding with you, that their actions speak louder than their words.
Yes.
I had tons of stories, and they all turned out to be fake at the end.
Of course, yes. Dramatic stories.
Very, very remorseful stories. But they were none of them were true, because there were no actions. The actions were the opposite. So let's, and then when you are ready in your time, then forgiveness might be a thing for you. And this might be very early on, this might be very late, or this might kind of never come. I think the most important part is for you to be able to accept what happened. I think this is where a lot of people struggle. There's a lot of, it could have been, if they only had, if this didn't happen, what if? So to accept that, no, all those scenarios didn't have, like, what happened is this happened.
Another element I would like to ask your opinion on is when when you forgive, the other person is expecting life to roll normal without those emotions resurfacing. And people always have this confusion of thinking that if my betrayal feelings resurface, that means I've not forgiven. How does that, on a scientific level, how question. Do we explain that?
So maybe just back to forgiveness, I believe personally that if, especially if this person is no longer in your life.
Yes.
If this person left or you left and you have nothing to do with each other anymore.
Yes.
If you can accept what happened, not that you're happy with what happened, but you accept that this is the reality and you can move on from it. You can, even letting go is a process. Yes, I don't expect that in the first few weeks to happen, but if you can kind of let it be, let it go. And you can move on without resentment and without bitterness. Then if there's forgiveness or not, I think you're okay. But someone else thinks different about forgiveness, and that is totally okay as well. Everybody has their own ideas around there. Now, if if you're listening and maybe you're the one that betrayed.
Yes.
And your partner still brings this up sometimes, or still has these feelings of distrust at times.
It's like, how back do you want us to go back and rediscuss this again?
Honestly, if you're the betrayer, you're the one that betrayed trust. You're the one that broke down the wall. You need
making
to give this
the person who want to bring it up to rediscuss this again, make them feel like you have not forgiven, you have not moved on.
You caused an injury. Like if I really, stabbed you with a knife, and I say, why are you still bleeding? Or why is it still sensitive if I press your injury, your wound, or if I throw some salt on it, or if I expose it? With a physical injury, we understand
The
that
visual,
it takes time to heal, and it might be very sensitive. If you have a broken ankle, and even when it's pretty much healed, it might still be a weak point for you. So you as the betrayer, if you also, if this person still wants to be with you again and wants to rebuild with you, and you want to rebuild with them, you also really need to give them that time. And I also really would advise betrayers to seek support on their healing journey.
Oh, yeah.
For you to really change, for you to really figure out, why did I even, why was I capable of so much lying, so much hiding, so much disrespecting, so much hurting somebody that I know
and not caring,
so much of not, like, how disconnected am I?
To people's feelings,
to seek support, and to also seek support again from somebody who is very well versed with betrayal, so that they can also support you on.
From a point of love, not...
and from a point of this is what your partner is going through.
Yeah, true.
You caused an injury, so it's going to take time.
Do you support people like that? The betrayers, not betrayed.
I definitely could.
Yeah.
I definitely could. I think as a coach, I wouldn't be a coach if I didn't believe people could change.
Yeah,
people can change. They have to be committed to the change. They have to be intentional to the change. If you want to change, we can work together. Depending on what your challenges are, of course, some of them might go much deeper for a coach to address. Maybe you need different type of support. But if people are willing and if people are committed, most of all, if as a betrayer, you only want to change to save your relationship, then you're not coming from a very good... You have to be willing to change and to address your issues, regardless of if this person decides to stay with you
or to go to leave.
Or to leave you.
Yeah, because you will have a next victim. Yeah.
It's you that wants to change.
Yeah, true.
And hopefully save your relationship.
Yeah.
But it has to come regardless of the saving of the relationship.
Great. That's amazing. Oh my God. Thank you, Ingrid. I would like to ask you, what are the myths around betrayal and healing you would like our listeners to really demystify?
Oh, that's an interesting question. There's something I'd really want to share, which is maybe not necessarily a myth. But this is something that I have seen myself doing, and I see other people doing, is when, especially in intimate relationships, but even at the workplace, where we find out there has been a betrayal, and now we are going to overanalyze this other person's actions and behavior, and we're almost becoming their psychologist. And they're a psychoanalyst, and we know exactly they have narcissist personality disorder, or they have avoidance disorder, or maybe they have this, or maybe they have
Guilty
that.
as charged.
Oh yes, I've done that. And surely, like, especially as I said, like, not always, but also often betrayal might come in a situation where there was some kind of abuse. So for you to learn, to read up more about it, to understand better might be very validating for you. So there's not necessarily a don't do this. However,
but don't be obsessed with it.
We can get so stuck in the rabbit hole. The amount of reels I've watched about narcissistic abuse. And we can get stuck. And we really try to, but you know what, she had a really difficult childhood, and that's why they are the way they are, and if only this, and that's why they do that, and And so we focus so much on this other person, trying to understand them, and trying to maybe even in an effort to fix them, because if you fix them, and if we can focus on somebody else, you know what? We don't have to focus on us. We don't have to focus on our own
I would
pain,
say that's like a masculine approach, yes.
Our own, and we do it. Well, I don't even know if it's a masculine approach.
It is, because it's a fixing.
It's a fixer.
Yeah, it's a fixing, because when we are...
very many women are fixers.
Yeah, it's a way of fixing things. And this is a dangerous step and a dangerous approach, because I'm seeing many women actually coming to improve their femininity to fix their marriage.
Yeah.
Let me do this so that he can do that.
Yeah.
So anytime you do things for the other person to behave in a certain way, you're fixing. You're setting the landing space 100%. For them to land there. When you're doing things for fixing yourself, then that is a feminine approach, because you're changing the narrative by recalibrating yourself. And then let the other person acquainted themselves by that new version that you're creating.
So you might be reading up upon narcissism, maybe sex addiction, porn addiction. You've watched the TED Talks, you know all about it. You really, and you're going with all this information to them if they're still in your life, or at least, this way you figured out.
Now you even change, you fix your boobs, you fix your ass, you want to go and perform in a certain way. Everything that is going to lead you into a certain performance, it's a fixing mode. Honestly,
and it takes the attention off yourself, because they might not even be looking into any of this, because they're not interested maybe at all in healing. But meanwhile, you've already figured them all out, but you've not figured yourself out. So as I said, it's not necessarily bad. There is time and place for that, and it's okay to learn. But sometimes you get to a place where you no longer learn. The founder of the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute, he says there's a bit of rumination and exploration and this kind of obsessive searching because we still learn. And then there is that where we just marinate and we bathe in it and we dress ourselves with all of it, whereas we haven't really looked into ourselves. What we need to look into is what dynamics, patterns, behaviors, beliefs led me to stay in this situation. What do I need to change? What is required from me to move forward in life? What new skills do I need to learn? That's probably where the focus needs to be. The focus needs to be on us instead of on them. And what we're trying to do is so much focus on them and understanding them.
Or to try to attract them better.
And so we are more in their heads than we are in our own heads.
True.
And I've done that. You say you've done that. I know clients have done that. So it's a normal response. However, we don't want to get stuck. And I don't think this is maybe not much of a myth. Maybe one of the myths, but we've tackled that, I think, is really this idea of, you call it up, you call it out upon yourself. And this happens to both men and women. If a man is betrayed by his wife or by his female partner, men are bound to say, what did you not give her? What did you not do? What did this and this? The other way around, when, someone is betrayed by their husband, what kind of a wife were you? Maybe you were this, maybe you were that. Like, there's all these reasons as to why did they do this? It's like, no, they did this because they don't have the capacity
to
deal with it in a different way. They cannot show up authentically. They cannot tell you that they want to explore sexuality in a different way. They have different needs. Maybe they've changed their ideas about being exclusive or being monogamous. They don't have the authenticity and the courage to have the conversation. So their only way they know, and maybe because there was a lot of betrayal in childhood, maybe
that's their way they have seen.
Maybe they've seen that that's how you do things. You hide, you don't speak up, but their only way they know is to lie and to hide and to hurt. But that has nothing to do
with us.
With you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. When it comes to betrayal conversations, it's so hard for people to come out and speak the way we are speaking, because it's touched the most sensitive areas of our lives, sometimes experiences that we don't want other people to know about us. What do you think is a best way? Sometimes I see, even among my clients, someone tell me, I found out that my husband was cheating. I decided to cheat as well. Doing a wrong by the wrong. Sometimes deciding to do wrong as a coping mechanism out of being betrayed, or deciding to hurt other people because you have been betrayed, deciding to also go and hurt other women or other men because yours has also done something wrong. How do we go about that? How do we bring empathy in a world that has shown us cruelty all the time? Yeah.
Thank you. There's definitely a lot of shame surrounding this topic.
Yeah.
If it is in relationships or even in business, maybe you have an image as a successful business person, but someone betrayed you in business, and you're like, oh, I can't talk about this because what will people think? They might think I'm not a good business person. They might think I'm not serious about my business. I'm weak. I'm what? There's a lot of shame, and shame is such a detrimental emotion. You'd rather have almost experience any other emotion or any other feeling than shame. Yeah. Shame can really break so much, like break connections, and we need connections to heal.
Yes.
We heal in connection. And for us to act out of our pain and do something to kind of punish this other person, we're really just punishing ourselves mostly, because maybe we didn't even feel like doing this. We didn't even feel like cheating. It wasn't even a good experience. And this other person is not even so bothered.
Oh, yeah.
So we're really hurting ourselves. I feel the more we get to really know ourselves, to love ourselves, to know what we want from life, what is working for us, what is not working for us, who we really are, the more authentic we can be and live, the more we can let these things be, so to say. The more we understand, the more we can stay true to ourselves, maybe the more empathy there also is. Because we also don't want to justify things.
Yes, true.
I can very well understand that even, the person who betrayed me might have carried a lot of issues from childhood, even massive betrayal in childhood, maybe that led to addictions, that led to disassociation, that led to disconnection. It might be all of that. At the same time, the empathy or understanding we might have for somebody else is not meant to overrule the empathy also that we towards ourselves, so that we now come so understanding that we will just put up with things to self-destruct.
Okay, great. I agree with you on that.
I think you have another podcast about boundaries. That would be a very helpful one also to
going beyond betrayal will require having firm boundaries and values that you really want to live by.
Yeah, but it requires knowing
yourself, self-discovery. Oh, how refreshing this was. And it was sounding therapeutic, even just talking about it and discussing effect of betrayals, coping mechanism, healthy and unhealthy coping mechanism, how we can actually even become aware that I'm struggling with betrayal and I need help. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I believe even you got so much to talk and to internal evaluation as we were discussing this with Ingrid. I would like to give her also an opportunity to tell us more about her offers, more about her coaching style, so that if I need to work on betrayal, maybe I'm the betrayer, I need help. I also do not want, it is also daunting, honestly, to come into people's life to leave them broken. I believe these people need help, and they also feel bad about it. Yeah. What help can you offer? And if you feel like you have been betrayed over and over again, then you don't want to chance without fixing and recalibrating yourself. I think you need to talk more about that. Where can people find you? Which kind of help and support do you provide?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Alice. Thank you also so much for giving space to this, because I think you mentioned as well, we don't talk enough about this. Yes. Not very many people talk about this. Yes. And, so we leave so many people feeling with this, am I alone? Am I the only one?
No, you're not.
You're not.
It's all of us.
And especially in a society where it's like, that's just what people do. Just, familia. No, it's you're not crazy. Yeah. You're not alone. You're not crazy. What you're dealing with are very normal, valid ways of feeling and thinking to an abnormal situation, and you're not to blame. I really just also want to emphasize that. Yeah. And you don't need to be stuck with this. So you can look for support. As I said, I'm the only post-betrayal transformation coach in Kenya. So you can reach out to me. I also do breath work, which is a very beautiful modality for the kind of trauma that gets stuck in our bodies.
Yes.
Because talking can bring us very far, but sometimes there's things that have been there for so long, maybe even for years, that emotions are stuck in the body, and breath work can really help release also on that physical level. So
can I talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
As someone who has stuck a lot of things in
you were saying.
bottling, that was my first coping mechanism ever since childhood.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that later on in life, in my adulthood, I started developing gut issues. And breath exercise is one of the things that is helping me now to unpack all those things that I have put maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
An auntie has done to you something, bottle. An uncle has done something to you, bottle. In school, in campus, and all that. And I'm dealing with such trauma right now. So I don't know at what point I will start dealing with marriage issues.
I'm sure your body doesn't necessarily know the difference. It will help all of it. And as you well know, it's not a magic wand. It's a process.
It's a process.
But I'm so glad that you have found that to be helpful.
Yes, it is.
It definitely can be so helpful. Yeah. So I do that. The coaching, post-betrayal coaching, I have different programs.
Yes.
So please check out my website and my Instagram page, Open Hearth Coaching. Yeah. Now, I chose a name that is, I actually need to spell it for you because it's...
we will add the
you will
link.
Add it. So it's Open Heart,
yes.
from an open heart, but a hate behind the heart for hearth. So it's like a fireplace. It's Open Heart. I think if you type it in on Instagram, you'll actually
there's an emoji of a burning heart on it. Yeah.
So you will, or a picture of me, but the logo is a fireplace.
Yes.
So you can find it there. So Open Hearth Coaching. My Instagram page is also Open Hearth Coaching. You can also reach out to me. I'm very responsive usually especially on WhatsApp.
Yes.
Because phone calls I can't always pick because I'm in sessions with people.
Are you okay if we add your number?
But yeah,
down
please
in
add
the
my number,
Okay.
0708-737-129.
Yes.
So you can reach out to me. I have various programs if you want to try breath work, if you want to try a combination. Also on my IG page on the highlights, story highlights, I have a lot of videos that I did.
Yes.
I'm going to do more. I've been a bit busy in the past few weeks, but I'm going to keep talking about betrayal because I know people need this and because people find out about betrayal every day.
Every day. And how do we cope with it and still live positively? We don't become really gangsters because at the end of the day, sometimes it hurts us more when you choose to live and harden with a lot of layers so that you can not be hurt and still be hurt with those layers.
Because you started this podcast saying how to live, the intention is to live easier and lighter.
Yes, because I said, regardless of all layers that I have put, I'm still hurt.
And we don't want you to put on a harness and to live in fear. And maybe the last thing I'd like to say, which is one of my favorite quotes when it comes to trust and betrayal, is as much as we do the work on ourselves, we cannot avoid someone ever betraying us again. There is no guarantee in life against betrayal, right? But what we can work on, and not in a way like, we're putting on a harness. No, imagine this bird that is, flying freely, and it sees this branch, and it's going to rest on the branch. And it doesn't rest on the branch knowing that the branch can never break.
Yes.
It knows that the branch could break. It's probably not very likely, but it could break. But the bird rests on the branch because it trusts its ability to fly.
Wow.
And I think it's not my quote, so I won't take credits. I don't know who came up with this. It's such a beautiful quote. Because, it is. Yes, I would want to be, in such a place where I can enter a new relationship and have relationships with people that not from a fear-based point, but from an open, and I can trust you again. Because as much as I know that I'm trustworthy, I also know there are other people out there who are trustworthy.
Yes.
So I want to be able to give you another chance with an open heart.
Yes.
But I also know
my ability to bounce back.
Fly if
true.
something were to happen.
Wow.
And that I've learned, and I will see the signs earlier, and I will choose myself earlier. And so I'm more equipped now to deal with a similar situation might it ever occur. I won't let it last for this long anymore, right? So I trust my wings to fly.
Wow.
And I really, if there's anything that you're taking away from this podcast, learning how to trust yourself again. It's a process.
Yes, it is.
I can support you with that. I can support you in getting unstuck and finding out what it is that you want for your life. What I require from you, if you want to join this, is the commitment. You have to be committed. You don't have to be 100% ready. We probably never are.
Yes.
You don't have to be 100% healed. No, that's why you're joining.
Yes.
You have to be committed to the process.
Sure, I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid, for sharing
so much for this opportunity. I think we could still do 10 more podcasts on this.
Yeah,
There's
we can.
So much we have not talked about.
We can. We can still extend our conversation even on your IG or on my IG. I'm open to collaborate. Anything that is going to help women navigate life better, 100%. Making better choices. That is the main vision of Intentionalist. We should navigate life in our terms. Yeah. Not sending excuse, not blaming people who hurt us, because danger is surrounding us all the time. But how do I live and trust my ability and my wing to fly and bounce back with trust that I'm trusting myself to live better? Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for our listeners to follow us through. This is Intentionalist, hosted by me, Coach Alice Mohirwa. Thank you.